I'm going to leave a space here to give you the instruction how do we add numbers. But basically what we're talking about, if you were to add 5 plus 3, or negative 7 plus 12, or 15 plus negative 6, negative 20 plus a negative 8. I have a habit of putting negative numbers in parentheses. That's just me. So how do we add numbers? Sign numbers. Notice here both numbers the same sign. We know 5 and 3 is what? 8. But what about negative 7 plus 12? What about 15 plus a negative 6? What about negative 20 plus negative 8? And the rule for addition, I'm talking about adding two numbers. So here, this is just for two numbers. Then we'll expand on that after that. Two numbers. So what's the rule for adding two numbers? Here's the first rule. If the numbers have the same sign, so if they have the same sign, I'm not going to write the whole thing. What do? We add the absolute value and keep the sign. So that applies to this one, 5 and 3. If you were to add 5 and 3, notice they're both positive. What's the absolute value of 5? 5. What's the absolute value of 3? 3. What's 5 plus 3? 8. That also applies here. What's the absolute value of negative 20? Add to it the absolute value of negative 8. Absolute value of negative 20 is what? 20. Absolute value of negative 8 is what? 8. Let's add them. What do we have? 28, but keep the sign. And what's the sign of the two numbers? Negative. So that's too much work or too much stuff saying there. Add this and that, add this. So what you have to look at it, don't pay attention to the sign, just add the numbers. Go 8 and 20 is 28. What's the sign? Negative. 5 and 3, 8. What's the sign? Positive. What about if they have different signs? Then what do? Subtract the smaller absolute value. I don't like all this writing, but I got to make it mathematically correct. The smaller absolute value from the larger absolute value. And take the sign of the number with the larger absolute value. With the larger absolute value. A lot of writing. So in English translation, don't pay attention to the sign, just ignore them when you have different signs. Don't look at the sign. Subtract the smaller from the larger. What is 7 from 12? 5. And don't pay attention to the sign. Which one's bigger, 7 or 12? What's the sign of 12? Positive. Positive. It's a positive 5. Again, look at the two numbers here. They're different signs. Because it's negative number. Yeah, I always put my negative numbers in parentheses. Just my style, I mentioned that. Yeah, just a style, I like that. So you'll know that's a negative. Notice here different signs. I'm not going to pay attention to the absolute value. Subtract 6 from 15, which is what? 9. Don't pay attention to the sign. Which one's bigger, 15 or 6? What's the sign of 15? It's a plus 9. Minus 10 plus minus 12. Are they the same sign or different sign? Add the two numbers. 10 and 12 is what? 22, and keep the sign negative 22. Yes. Much quicker. Minus 7 plus 3. Same or different signs? Different. Subtract the smaller from the larger. 3 from 7, which is what? 4. And what's the sign of 7? Negative 4. What's negative 8 plus a negative 17? Same sign. What do? Add them and keep the sign. 8 and 17 is what? Is it 25? 25. And what's the sign here? Negative. Let's practice some more. I know you love fractions. Plus negative 1 and 1/2. Again, look at the two numbers. Are they the same sign? Yes, so we add them, keep the sign. So I know my answer is going to be negative. But let me add them. What is 3 plus 1 and 1/2? Now, how do we add these? The 3 is 3 over what? 1. And that's what? 3 over 2. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. If you're going to add or subtract, what do you need? Least common denominator, which is what? 2. This is 6 over 2. Plus 3 over 2, which is what? Is it 9 over 2? And what is 9 divided by 2? 4. 4 times 2, 8. Remainder is what? 1. So it's negative 4 and 1/2. If this is right as simplified fraction, Angelica, I'll go negative 9 over 2. Okay. If this is write the answer as a mixed number, I'll put negative 4 over 1/2. Let's try another fraction. 3 and 4 over 5. I want to add to it negative 1 and 2/3. Are the two numbers the same sign or different signs? Which one do you think bigger? This or that? This one is bigger than that. So I'm going to subtract the smaller from the larger. So 3 and 4 over 5 minus 1 and 2/3. When they are different, you subtract the smaller from the larger. And you take the sign of the larger. My larger is this. So my answer is going to be positive. 5 times 3 and 4, 20 over 5 minus 5 over 3. I keep bringing fraction because I know that's where your problem is.
15 plus 4 is 19.
Oh, 19. Thank you. Staying up late till 3:30 watching the result of the election last night. Huh? I couldn't believe that she didn't come out. Just told everyone go home. Like, wow. Now, if you want to add or subtract, what do you need? Common denominator, which is what here? 15. So I will have to multiply this by what to make it 15? by 3. Let me get a blue marker. I think this is blue. Multiply it by 3. Is that blue? Nope. Sure, I have a blue somewhere here. Oh, not today. I guess there's no blue here. So I got to multiply this by 3. What's 3 times 19? Is that a 57? I have to multiply this by what? 5. That's 25. What's 57 minus 25? Take away 25 from it.
35.
How about 32 maybe? Is that? That's a 32 over 15. So your answer is going to be 32 over 15. If you want to divide that, 2 times 15, which is what? 30. What's the remainder? 2. That's 2 and 2, 15. It's a plus. Why? Because the bigger number is positive. Let's go to chapter 3, when you had decimals. Like this. Are they the same sign or different signs? Different. You subtract the 0.8 from the 2.1. 8 from 1 you can. This becomes 1, that's 11. 8 from 11, 3. That's a 1.3. And again, look at the absolute value. Don't look at the sign. Which one is bigger, 2.1 or 0.8? 2.1 is bigger than 0.8, right? What's the sign of 2.1? Negative. So that's a minus 1.3. So when I gave you the rules here, it was only for 2 numbers, adding 2 numbers. So what do you do if you have more than 2 numbers? I'll give you an example. Color them. Here's more than 2 numbers. I got 3 plus negative 1 plus negative 8 plus the 2 plus the negative 11. What I would do in this case, I'll grab these 2 and find an answer to them. Notice they're different signs. You subtract the smaller from the larger. 1 from 3, which is what? 2, and what's the sign of 3? Positive, that's a plus 2. Let's copy the rest of the problem so I don't have to look back. Now do these 2. Same sign or different signs? Subtract the smaller from the larger. 2 from 8. That's 6 with the minus. That's a negative 6. Yes. Next is the next group. Do this. Different signs or the same sign? Subtract the smaller from the larger. When I say smaller and larger, I'm talking about absolute value. 2 from 6, 4, and that's a negative 4. Are they the same sign or different? So what do you do when they're the same sign? Add them and keep the sign. 4 and 11, 15 with the negative. Now, a lot of people didn't like this. They go, oh, that's too much work. So what can we do then to it? Same problem. They said, let's take all the positive numbers, add them and make one number out of them. What's 3 and 2? 5. Let's take all the negative numbers, add them, and make one number out of it. 1 plus 8 plus 11. What's 1 plus 8? 9. 9, 11 is what? 20. That's a negative 20. So we took all the negative numbers and we made one number out of it. We took all the positive numbers, we made one number out of it. Now, let's add these two. Different signs, you subtract the smaller from the larger. Absolute values here. 5 from 20, which is what? 15. What's the sign of the 20? Negative. Is that the same answer? So a lot of people like to do it this way because less work. Yes?
What if you have like negative, subtraction sign?
Oh, that's coming up next. Coming next. And the good news for that, Angelica asked, what do you do if it's subtraction? I said, it's coming next. The next video, next section. And actually, we're going to use the same rule for addition with minor changes. But let me try one more of these. I'll do it both ways. Negative 3 plus 1 plus 8 plus negative 6. I'll do them two at a time first, then I'll do the other method after that. Different signs. We're going to subtract what? 1 from 3. What's 1 from 3? 2, and what's the sign? Negative. Now let's do these two. Are they the same sign? No, they're different. Subtract 2 from 8, which is what? 6, and what's the sign of 8? Positive. Now these two are the same. They are different signs. Subtract 6 from 6, which is what? 0. 0 does not have a sign. It's not a plus or a minus. Again, I could have done the same problem by adding all the negative numbers and making one number out of them, and all the positive numbers and make one number out of them. There's a negative 3 and negative 6. When you put them together, what do you have? When you add them, what's 3 and 6? 9. That's a negative 9. Then take the plus 1 plus 8. When you add them, that's a plus 9. Different signs, you subtract 9 from 9, which is what? 0. Huh? Yep. Yep, that's exactly what it is. You have a checking account and you're writing checks. Every check is a minus. You're subtracting that amount from it. So here's the video for addition. So let me stop it and do subtractions on the next video.